me start the recording. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining into the 28th edition of the webinar. The Sunday webinar, we typically have it every Sunday or maybe alternate Sunday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. So we did around 25th, 25 edition last year, and we are on the third edition this year. Now, today we have a very excellent topic for the fireside chat, and which is very, very pertinent right now, that our GCCs are new Silicon Valleys of pharma. Now, for decades, pharmaceutical innovations has been geographically concentrated around, let's say, Boston, Basel, New Jersey, and the Bay Areas. But the ecosystem, that is the ecosystem that we have where science, capital, regulations, and talent collided. But over the last decade, the GCC, which is the common name of the Global Capability Centers, especially in markets like India, have quietly evolved. What began as a cost-efficient discovery arms are now taking on R&D analytics, AI-led drug discovery, real-world evidence, regulatory strategy, and digital platform. Now, it's nothing new. It has been there for quite some time, but I was having a conversation with Pamela also. Like she also mentioned that this is coming to the forefront maybe during the COVID days. So today's question is not rhetorical, but it is timely. Now, global capability centers are no longer just the execution engine, right? Few years back also, we were thinking of at a cost center, maybe as a kind of offshore delivery center where we can just execute the things. They are now evolving into centers of scientific thinking, digital experimentation, AI-led drug discovery, real-world evidence analytics, regulatory intelligence, and platform innovation. Now, what typically started as a cost-efficient offshore support, now this has become matured into end-to-end ownership of the critical pharma value chain, deep collaboration with global R&D, clinical and commercial teams, a growing culture of patents, platforms, and problem solving at scale. Now, today's fireside chat will be revolving around few areas. Now, how the GCC in pharma has evolved from support to strategy, how it has taken right or it has transformed into more innovation oriented than execution at scale. Can really GCCs really rival Silicon Valley? What about the talent, culture, and the ownership? And the most importantly, every industry is getting impacted or rather leveraging AI data. So what is the future of GCCs in pharma in terms of AI data and the next inflection point? And finally, measuring the real impact. Now, without further delay, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our speaker for the session, Pamela Mukherjee. So she's a seasoned technology and delivery leader with deep expertise in data, digital platform, and enterprise product transformation within the life science industry. Her career spans impactful transformation at Novartis and MSD, where she has driven strategic programs across platform migration, data governance, SaaS adoption, and large-scale transitions to Viva systems. She bridges business and engineering, champions data as a product, automation-first operations, and AI-enabled quality engineering while helping GCCs evolve into innovation hubs. So I would like to also take an opportunity to give a brief introduction about myself. My name is Shubhobrata Pal, right, commonly called as Shubho. I'm a director consulting expert in CGI and also running various AI, agile, digital transformation, and also conducting this webinar under the platform of AI Agile Synergy. Now, before I directly go to Pamela, I would like to share a few interesting data points I was just reading through. Now, there are two primary areas where the pharma is focusing on, or pharma-focused GCCs are focusing on. One is scale and the growth of the pharma-focused GCC and the deeper role in the core function, not just execution or back office. Now, you will be surprised to hear that 23 of the world's top 50 life science companies now have GCCs in India, with many established in the last 5 years, signaling rapid expansion beyond traditional support function. Now, number of life sciences GCCs in India is projected to grow from 100 in 2024 to a whopping 160 by 2030, driven by demand for research, clinical trial support, and real-world evidence analytics and more. Now, the second part is, like it is a Ernst and Young report, GCCs in India are now handling strategic core business function beyond just traditional enabling work like a finance or IT or any other cost center. You won't believe that 45% penetration in drug discovery and development, 60% in regulatory affairs, 54% in medical affairs, and 50% in the commercial operations. That is how the pharma is growing, or GCCs are growing. Now, with this context, I would like to first go to Pamela to help us understand, because for a bigger audience, this question is because still many people are not very clearly able to distinguish between GCCs and startup because they go hand in hand. Some people thinking because of the size, reduction of the size or small size GCC operations, they are not able to differentiate between are they really something different or they are just another form of a startup. So I would like to ask this question to you. Would you like to quickly help us understand what is the fundamental difference between GCCs versus startup before we actually go into the topic for today? Over to you, Pamela.
Thank you, Shubho. And I think what a great summary, Shubho. Great insights that you brought on the table. Good morning, everyone. This is Pamela, and I think Shubho already gave me a massive introduction about me. Thank you for that. But again, lovely question, to be precise. So, and it's also an important question because people often compare GCCs and startups as if they are competing species, but they are not. They are they have evolved and they are continuously evolving for different purposes. Now, a startup is born from an idea or a market gap, or let's say there is some unmet needs that needs to be fulfilled in the market. So its mission is to discover a scalable business model operating at extreme uncertainty. Founders are always betting survival on speed, product market fit, and funding has been always a challenge to scale up the product and reach to the broader market. And most important thing is the risk of existence as well as sustainability. Now, if things go wrong, there is a high risk of how sustainable let's say the vision would be in terms of the startup.
Right.
Now, on GCC, on the other hand, is actually born from the strategy of an existing enterprise. It's nothing new that we are building. Its original purpose was extension, right? To scale operations, to access the global talent and drive efficiency. But in today's context, GCCs are no longer the execution hubs or arms, as you rightly mentioned, Shubho, in your brief out. They are now becoming the capability engines. The risk profile is totally different when we compare startups and GCCs. GCCs are not gambling for survival. They are already very much into the market. It's just having an extended arm to further drive the efficiency in cater the various capabilities to a more global scale. So they are innovating within a risk managed corporate framework. And there are other aspects also, like when we talk about funding is very, very important. I would say a strategic arm for startups, right? Startups have to pitch to VCs, get angel investors, and for their future possibility and growth. But GCCs are already justifying the investments based on the enterprise value they are bringing on the table. Right. Now, it can be ROI, platform scalability, long-term transformations that they are going to bring out on the table once these GCs are formed from a big enterprise firm that they are coming out. On the other context, if I go with talent, talent is having a different aspect too, because startups are attracting people chasing who can chase ownership, who can chase and understand the financial upside also. They can take that risk. GCCs increasingly attract team or talent who want to work on complex global problems with stability and scale. So if you ask me, the real difference is to put in a very in a small nutshell, few lines. Startups are designed to create new engines of growth from scratch. GCCs are evolving to reinvent and scale the engines that already power the global enterprises.
Excellent, excellent summary. Thank you so much. So in summary, like what I understand, right, it is I mean, many people think in a different way, but it is the real insight is not GCC versus startup, rather it is GCC plus startup. The future belongs to the ecosystem where GCCs industrialize innovation that startups ignite, right? Great insight. Now, coming to our right original topic, right, of the pharma GCC, how are they evolving, etc. And our first dimension is, as we discussed earlier, that support to strategy. For a long term, GCCs were viewed primarily as an efficiency engine, focused on cost, scale, execution. In a simple layman term, that used to be considered as a cost center or an offshore delivery center, etc., etc. Now, yet today, many are influencing R&D analytics, regulatory strategy, and digital platform. Now, these did not happen overnight. It did not happen by accident. It took its own time, right, to get to that level. And like in every industry, like which is going through the transformation, now pharma industry has also gone through a transformation. So my question is, how did GCCs transition from back office support to becoming strategic contributors in pharma? Who really triggered that shift?
I think if you ask me, GCCs, as I rightly said, right, right now GCCs were considered to be execution hubs when we were
Correct.
starting initially building that context. Historically, headquarters defined problems and GCCs executed the solutions.
Mm-hmm.
But as we are coming out to more, addressing the digital platforms, right, data engineering and analytics capabilities, uh, which we need to have this concentrated within the GCCs,
Correct.
the center of gravity has shifted now. Today, many GCCs house the deepest technical expertise in the enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
So increasingly, if you ask me, GCCs are now co-defining the problems.
Correct.
Not just solving them, not just acting as a delivery hub, not just acting as a capacity hub,
Mm-hmm.
but when you own the data platforms now, like I can put AI pipelines and various
Right.
integration layers, you naturally influence what problems you are worth solving.
Correct.
Okay, so the real litmus test is ownership of the outcomes. So
Mm-hmm.
execution, right now what we have been doing, we have been delivering on time within
Right.
scope. That was our benchmark. That was our, let's say, testing ground. But now we are co-creating,
Mm-hmm.
which means being accountable for the business impact. So leading GCCs are moving into product ownership, platform strategy, and measurable value execution. Now,
Excellent.
future ownership is also evolving in that context.
Mm-hmm.
Innovation requires that GCC leaders are now trusted, not just to deliver, but to experiment as well. So that's where the shift has started happening. Our very, very great organization, Novartis, I think, built that very, very great, I would say, the model within this, within India, where they had created the GCC first time. I think they come with the concept. So they initiated with actually utilizing the manpower to
Right.
deliver. But now they have started to own the problems. They are delivering platforms. They are managing the outcomes. They are
Correct.
managing the budgets. Now GCC has become a core part for their growth in the budget discussions as well, and as well as outcomes. So it's no more a delivery hub. And now we are experimenting. We are occasionally failing as well, which is absolutely fine in order to pursue of getting better solutions. So the truth lies now, the GCC began as executors. We were using the back office to use the capacity, but now the most advanced ones are now genuinely co-creating, are co-creators of enterprise strategy.
Excellent, excellent. And I like your point that there is separate space created for that budget, right? GCC budget. And in fact, recently we have heard, right? We have witnessed that in our union budget,
Yeah,
and government has come up with a very specific GCC policy, and also they have kept a good amount of money, right, to execute that GCC policy. So they are
exactly.
also right considering that as a huge opportunity coming up. Great. Now, our next dimension, right, like innovation or execution at scale. Now, across the pharma industry, there is an ongoing and very real debate about the role GCCs plays in innovation. Now, I'll touch upon both the area. On one side, GCCs are often described as highly efficient execution engine. Already you talked about excellent in delivering against what clearly with clearly defined roadmap, scaling solutions designed elsewhere, and operating with precision and discipline. Now, from this lens, innovation still originates at headquarters, while GCC focus on how rather than what or why. Now, if I may take an example, this is the way Pfizer, GSK, or Sanofi work. Now, on the other side, there is a growing body of evidence suggesting a shift. Many GCCs are now designing platform, leading complex transformation, experimenting with new technologies, and influencing decision making upstream. Now, in some cases, ideas are born in GCCs, right, as you said, and then scale globally. It's just a kind of opposite now it is happening. Example, Novartis, AstraZeneca, and MSD. So the tension lies in the middle. So from this context, my question is, I would like to explore more from you. Critics argue GCCs still execute someone else's ideas, and the supporters say they now co-create innovation, co-think, like as you talked about. What is the actual truth? What is the actual fact?
I think I would still in my previous I think conversation we touched upon this fact that um, DCCs are right now lying in between, right in middle of that transition. So GCCs are also executors. GCCs are also co-creators,
Correct.
right? Because in terms of, as we were talking a few minutes back, right, the
Mm-hmm.
GCCs were previously, working on some problems identified somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say maybe the headquarters identified, or maybe there is a bigger organization from where they are actually scraping out themselves. The problems have been identified and they are just trying to, execute the solutions. They're not creating.
Correct.
They're not part of the creation framework.
Mm-hmm.
That was historically. But as we are now moving more towards digital ways of working,
Mm-hmm.
where we have huge amount of data, huge amount of other capabilities, like analytics is growing so high, so speed that we're not able to even catch up the speed of the way the innovation hubs right now are working together.
Right.
There I think we are now, the center of gravity has right now shifted.
Mm-hmm.
Now GCCs are not only focused on execution, which is anyways one of their key pillars, but now they're also trying to, utilize this massive scale of digital or digitization that is happening,
Mm-hmm.
and increasing the capabilities that is concentrated on GCCs. Today many GCCs house the deepest technical, if you ask me, the deepest brain minds or deepest technical expertise is coming out from GCCs itself,
Mm-hmm.
and at the more enterprise level. So
Right.
increasingly now GCCs are co-defining the problems. They are no
Correct.
more at the tail end. They are
Mm-hmm.
now on the table, working with the I would say that working with the enterprise team, or maybe the organization, directly working on what is the problem, what do we need to do, and how we want to do that. It's what, why, and how. That's how together GCCs are right now coming together. Not only part of doing how, now they are part of what and why as well. So when you're owning the data platforms, um, you naturally influence what problems are worth solving, because GCCs are now right now part of owning those platforms because they are solving the problems now. So that's the reason they are also now co-creators of those solutions,
Mm-hmm.
and identifying the gaps and how they can utilize their capacity, their capabilities to make a, let's say, a viable solution that
Mm-hmm.
can help at a more enterprise level to solve the bigger problem that right now faces the entire, I would not say the enterprise, but various enterprises are facing, right? How we can scale up, how we can make, how we can reach to the people, like let's say the clinical farmers, right? The
Correct.
trials take so many years. Now with AI coming in, the trials are now getting much more faster. Why?
Exactly.
Because the capabilities within GCCs are working together to
Mm-hmm.
build these AI models, AI agents, to make thus the process much more quicker, which used to take twice or thrice times what now it takes today. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where GCCs are now focusing themselves. So again, coming to the same question back to yours, I think the real test lies who owns the problems, right?
Correct.
Who owns the outcomes? So execution means delivering on time and within tight timelines, within tight budget. Co-creation means being accountable for the impact you bring on the overall from the business side. So leading GCs are now moving into product ownership, and then they are now being into more product mindset oriented
Mm-hmm.
platform strategy, as well as finding out some outcomes which gives a measurable value at the end to the business. So that's how I think right now GCCs are working. Failure ownership is also evolving because it's new process or new, let's say, mindset coming in. You also have a failure aspect.
Correct.
So true innovation requires that GCC leaders are trusted. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
the trust is now being already in, people are trusting GCCs.
Mm-hmm.
So they are no more the deliver centers, but now they're experimenting. And yeah, occasionally they fail in the pursuit of getting better solutions, which is absolutely fine. So the
Right.
trick lies in evolution. GCCs are began as executors, but the most advanced ones are now actually becoming co-creators at the enterprise level, solving a bigger problem, meeting the people's needs wherever the needs are not met. So that's something I would like to call out.
Excellent. Now, coming back to our original problem, right? GCCs in India can, right, compete with the Silicon Valley.
Mhm.
So, Silicon Valley's success is rooted in startup, venture capital, academic spillovers, and a strong risk-taking culture, as you spoke about. Now, GCCs, on the other hand, operate with a large regulated pharmaceutical enterprises. The question is whether innovation needs the same ingredients everywhere. Now, GCCs, especially in pharma, operate in a very different reality. They sit inside large global enterprises where a patient safety, regulatory compliance, data integrity, and long product life cycles are non-negotiable. Now, decisions are deliberate, governance is tight, and experimentation happens within well-defined guardrails. Now, when we talk about, right, the GCCs, right, especially in a country like India, can we really think about that level of governance, that level of data security, privacy, that level of compliance, all those things can be there? So, again, coming back to the original question, Silicon Valley thrives on startup venture capital and risk taking. Can really GCC ecosystem realistically, right? Not talking about utopian part, but can we really realistically compete with that model from all covering all the aspects?
I love that question, Shubho, and it's a great question. And I think that's where I think everybody needs to have a different perspectives, how we see that, right? If you ask me, I would actually challenge the premise.
Correct.
The GCCs don't need to compete with Silicon Valley.
Mm-hmm.
They are playing a different strategic roles. Startups are playing their different strategic role. Now, Silicon Valley thrives on invention velocity.
Mm-hmm.
Startups experiment rapidly, they have a pivot aggressively, they chase disruption. GCCs, on the other hand, sit inside the large enterprises that already are operating at a global scale. Their advantage is not invention speed, but how quickly they can adopt. So it's the
Correct.
adoption speed. A startup may maybe inventing a breakthrough in AI model, just for
Mm.
example, right? But a GCC embedded within any industry, right? Be it pharma, be it finance, be it any industry, it can integrate the AI across its various integrated entities like R&D, manufacturing, regulatory, or any commercial systems, wherever it is touching, right? That ability to operationalize innovation at scale is an altogether different kind of power that GCCs are bringing on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Now, risk appetite is indeed a very different piece, which is still a missing piece, if you ask me.
Correct.
Historically, GCCs were optimized for reliability, not experimentation. We just touched upon that topic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we are seeing the leading GCCs now, they are introducing internal innovation pods.
Mm-hmm.
They have now their own sandbox environments
Mm-hmm.
and outcome based funding models, right?
Mm-hmm.
The goal is to create safe space and not only for experimentation, but also not compromising the enterprise stability that they are actually meant for which the GCC has been actually brought up into the, let's say, in this bigger hub. So GCCs, if you ask me, don't need to compete with Silicon Valley. They need to just become the place where innovation moves from prototype to a global impact.
Brilliant. Brilliant. That gives us a kind of reassurance that okay, we need not to really compete with Silicon Valley to make our mark, right? We are our homegrown identity, right? That's what we can say. No, very good. Now, no transformation can be successful without abundance of talent. Sometimes it is impacted by the culture and a sense of ownership. Now, capability is no longer a primary constraint. GCCs attract world-class scientific, digital, and analytical talent. But innovation is as much about mindset, ownership, and psychological safety, like you little bit touched upon, right, in a previous answer, as it is about skills. So the question is, does talent in GCCs see themselves as innovators or implementers? And how much does this culture influence that? I mean, how much does the culture influence that perception? Because typically in a country like India, we do not get much opportunity to do the first world kind of research and innovation. So we are always considered to be, right, an implementer or executors, but not ideators. So from that culture perspective, again, repeating my question, does talent in GCC see themselves as innovators or implementers, and how much does this culture influence that perception?
Lovely question. Again, I think you have great questions today, and I think the audience is definitely having a great time with these questions because the insights are actually being brought up on the table. So thank you, Subho, for that brilliant question. So again, coming back to your context, if GCCs or let's say the talent, they are considered to be as innovators or implementers. Now, this depends far more on the culture than
Correct.
geography. Right now, let's say if a GCC, if I go back again to historical, I'm not quoting other GCCs how they are operating,
Mm-hmm.
but if you consider GCCs only considered like maybe some L1, L2, or some ticket resolution factory, then talent behaves like an implementers because
Correct.
you are working on a task based model,
Right.
right? But when leaders provide product ownership, they provide the vision. What are we trying to achieve? And when we have innovation funding and visibility at global forums, people step into innovation roles quickly because then they see where they lie and what they have to do again, what and why, right? So empowerment is again the key to, I would believe in such context, how much empowered you are to take that call or put your ideas on the table that can make and bring an impact, maybe a smaller, maybe a bigger, but
Mm-hmm.
it all depends how you are empowered. You can be
Correct.
empowered to think like an innovator, you
Mm-hmm.
can be empowered to think like an implementer,
Correct.
right? So it's all coming down from the overall concept of how much you are making your talent empowered to come to that role to play that. Now, leaders must give teams, enough room to experiment
Correct.
within the defined guardrails.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in regulated industries like pharma, because I come from pharma, so you can't fail fast in patient safety, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But you absolutely can in internal platforms, analytical models, and digital tools because you are still experimenting how to make a solution much more, or let's say, how to make a better solution, right? So the best GCCs create structured innovation pathways. Maybe there are hackathons, many things are there, incubators and innovation sprints aligned to enterprise priorities. Now, when people feel trusted to influence outcomes, identity shifts from
Mm-hmm.
implemented to innovative.
Right.
I think that's where we should all head to, moving out from implementer mindset to grow and make our talent more empowered to take part in outcomes and influence the outcomes. That's where the innovations starts.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Now, the next dimension that we love to touch upon is AI data and the next inflection point. Now we all know that AI is kind of changing and quote unquote influencing how drugs are being discovered, how trials are designed, and how evidences are generated. Now,
Mhm.
many of these capabilities like data engineering, analytics, platform are increasingly owned by GCCs, raising questions about where innovation leadership now sits. Now, Novartis, as an example, it's an India-based teams have played a central role in building and operating enterprise-wide data and AI platform that support drug discovery, clinical analytics, and real-world evidence. Now, these are not local solutions; these are global assets consumed across the organization. Right? You also touched upon. Now, similarly, if I take AstraZeneca as an example, they have invested heavily in AI-driven discovery, genomics, and advanced analytics, with significant contributions coming from its global centers. These teams work at the intersection of science, data, and engineering, enabling faster hypothesis testing and more adaptive trial designs. Now, with these brief context, my question is headcount growth and cost savings, right? Where once the dominant success metrics for GCC whenever we are working like a offshore delivery center or a cost center model. But if we are talking truly about innovation hub, the benchmark need to evolve beyond scale. So what is your take on that? How can we measure now the success of the GCCs? What could be those KPIs?
That's a brilliant question. So, measuring GCC, let's say in context of the future upcoming path, right? And uh, but having coming to that point, before I would like to touch one point, you're talking about AI.
Hmm.
So AI is no more, I would say, a future. It's a co-partner.
Correct.
We are now partnering with AI to make it much more robust, scalable, and faster.
Hmm.
The industries are now taking up AI as a very important, crucial partnering model where we are able to, reach to the market at a much more higher level, which and also AI gives GCCs a seat at the strategy table because it ties technology decisions directly to business outcomes.
Correct.
Since you brought that concept of AI, I thought of touching that.
Hmm.
It's very core to my domain. So thank you for bringing that topic. Now coming to a GCC, innovation, how do we see in the upcoming years? I think it's very straight if you ask me, right? If you are still talking about cost savings only, then we have literally failed. Real indicators of innovation maturity model should include platform conceived and built in GCCs that are adopted globally, patents and IP originating from GCC teams, and leaders from GCC moving into global business roles. We should see dedicated innovation budgets, not just delivery budgets. I think I touched upon that point earlier also.
Correct.
We should see GCC-led initiatives directly tied to revenue growth,
Hmm.
pipeline accelerators, or operational excellence. So when GCCs start influencing enterprise direction, not just execution, that's where we can confidently say they have become true innovation hubs. I think
Correct.
that's where I'm looking forward to.
Excellent. Now coming to the final part, that measuring the real impact in the future. If I think from a futuristic perspective, now AI adoption jumped from 65%, if I may quote some of the data points, 65% to 86% over the 5 years within pharma GCCs, only pharma GCCs in India. Now, India alone hosts 1700 plus GCCs, representing roughly 53% of the world's total GCC ecosystem. And nearly 23, I already quoted that, nearly 23 out of the top 50 global life science firms have established significant GCC presence in India in just last 5 years, as per the latest E&Y report. So the last part, how are you, because there is no doubt about it, the GCCs are future, correct? No one can deny on that. But from your perspective, how you have, because you have been talking to, you have represented, right, some big companies already. You are working in a big company, and you have been talking to different CTOs, CEOs, CXOs. What is your vision? How do you think how our future is going towards in 5 years down the line?
I think 5 years down the line, GCC is going to be a great, I would say, a partner
Mm-hmm.
in terms of scalability, not by size, not by headcount, not by cost savings at all. We measure it by impact.
Correct.
How are we contributing? Let's say you touched upon some of the major farmers, right, or major industries. Now, previously, GCCs, or let's say the patents, the IP
Right.
ownership, they were all coming from the enterprise layer, from the bigger firms. Now, GCCs are and have to now contribute there. They are, but I think the scale is not that huge enough yet. So we really need to own, the patents, the algorithms, the AI models. They should be originating from GCC. That's where the future lies for GCCs, right? Um, Now we have to also say the AI reduced recruitment time by 20%. That's
Mm-hmm.
how the business metrics it should also look upon, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are we helping our business model to be much more measurable and value driven through
Mm-hmm.
GCCs? The KPIs would be how much we are involved in making and taking those KPIs into our day to day models, right? Maybe ADI, maybe leadership is a representation is one more area where the GCCs has to focus to be part of the global forums, right? And when we bring all these together, I think that's where the GCC future lies in the next whatever 5 years, 10 years we are talking
Right.
down the line. We are no more execution hubs. We are now intelligent builders. We are now system builders. Model ownership will likely be shared,
Mm-hmm.
but operational ownership, deployment, scaling, monitoring is increasingly has to be owned by GCCs. But at the same time, the ownership of model building is also has to come down to GCCs, right? So that's where I think I am looking when we talk about how GCCs are going to look upon after 5 years. I think it's more part of the discussion table, coming onto the broader table to discuss what are we doing together with GCC, not considering GCC as the tail end, but rather at the very beginning, both of the arms work together to bring out an impact to the business world. That's where I'm saying GCCs to go in the next 5 years. That's something I would like to conclude there.
Excellent. Excellent. So thanks, Pamela. Like that, brings us to the end of our discussion, right? But I would like to now open it up for the audience, right? If anyone has any question, anyone?
Yeah, if nobody is having, let me ask a couple. I think you have already answered, a part of it maybe. But then my first question is like, as you already said that we are using AI now as a co-creator. So how are the GCCs maintaining the balance of cost and trust? And how do you see India stand out on this?
You mean the GCCs within India?
Yeah.
As I said, if you're still talking about cost for GCCs, then we are not thinking of GCCs to be really successful.
Okay.
The trust is automatically coming. I think we are now trusting GCCs. Let's say GCCs are no longer the cost savings model, which was historically previously the concept. It was built with a global capability center mindset, but then I think it has taken a leap amount of time to reach that capability horizon. Previously, I think we have touched upon this as well, that the initial thought for the GCCs was to have the capacity driven from India, because we are rich at capacity with a
Right.
very low cost operating model, and the execution arm would be supported through these tech centers, which was initially the names of the GCCs, which evolved later to be as GCCs, but they are more as tech centers, or more as capable, or let's say capacity centers in terms of delivering the execution, right?
Right.
Now, building, and I think from that to what we are today, I think we have gained that trust. And I would like to again call out what Novartis, our very, very great organization, has built that over the years. I think they started with a very small, but I think now they have gained that trust, that they have now turned out to be the most successful GCCs, because now they own the models, they are owning the business outcomes, they are scaling at a very rapid path, bringing a very global impact at a very large scale to the business. And that's
Mhm.
where, when we talk about trust, we can see the amount of GCCs that has grown. Let's say, let's put Hyderabad on the spot, because that's where I think all GCCs are right now concentrated, and will keep on concentrating. That's where the trust, we can see how the trust has been built up, so that other GCCs from the various big organizations, like I think it would be the more Pharma that has now come into the picture in Hyderabad for setting up their GCCs. The amount of growth that has happened in the last 2 to 3 years, that is exponential, and that's where I think we should be calling out the trust. It's a live example, the trust at the enterprise level organizations are now trusting India, not considering it as only the execution hub, but the great talent that we have, the deep technical expertise, the strategic mindset, and how to have bring value, the value driven mindset, the ROI, that also includes the cost savings, because how are we talking about revenues, how we contribute towards revenue growth, is all happening within GCCs now. And we have live example in Hyderabad. I think all of the farmers are right now concentrated in with their GCC models, and more to come up in the near future.
I think that's great. And in addition to that, I think you also touched upon a bit, but then how much autonomy do India GCC teams truly have when it comes to, building and deploying AI models versus executing the algorithms that is designed elsewhere? I
Oh,
mean,
that's a lovely question. Sorry,
yeah,
I interrupted. Continue, please.
yeah, that's my question. So yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
Of course, we have, I mean, we are now autonomous. Okay, I would not even go with autonomy. We are autonomous. We are building our AI models within our GCCs. I was part of many initiatives in my past org, where I was working closely with building AI models. Let me give you one example. I think we now own, I think whatever farmers I have been working right now, they all own their AI models to sustain and to work and make the work much more better. Generative AI has been the biggest use case that the farmers have now taken up. Each org now have their own chat GPTs to help the people within, or let's say the talent within the organizations, to read, to get through the context from the vast amount of data that we have. They are now building their own models to reach and connect the data silos, and make a bridge together to reach to the final outcome, to meet the business impact. Let's say the clinical trials, I think I touched upon that. It takes 25 years to come to the market. Now there are so many data that is sitting ideal silo within the organization, and there I think the organizations are building their models, building their own AI agents to club, to integrate those data so that it can help the scientists to cater to those data driven matrix, data driven, let's say, research that they can further exemplify and further they can, fasten their drug processing, let's say the trials, let's say the pre-discovery, let's say pharmacovigilance, everything. So that models are existing, they are continuously improvising, and we continue to make more models, obviously co-partnering our AI, whatever is happening in the market, but building our own models and agents to fast track the activities, or say the amount of the work that we have with respect to data to break the silos and make more value driven insight from those data through the automated way, which is called AI. And that's where the autonomy is already been given to India, where they are creating such models, from the GCC concept and perspective I'm talking. And again, they are autonomous as well. I would not quote very intrinsic details from the various orgs that I have been part of, but yes, that's happening within the GCCs right now as we speak.
Yeah, that's great actually to know. Thanks for sharing, Pamela.
Sure.
Yep. Anyone else has any other question?
Yeah, hi, Shubhabrata. I think thanks, Pamela, for such a wonderful morning session. Very great, insights, I must say. So no doubt, as you also mentioned, that the GCCs in India they are more evolving from mere cost center back offices to being more strategic, independent innovation hubs. And the other advantage probably which the India-based GCC would have is the huge volume of local data that it has access to, right? So, my question is more that how these India-based GCCs, they are planning to leverage this local data to develop more customized patient-centric healthcare solutions and value-added services, which probably the global market would also demand?
I think, again, see, I think as you rightly touched upon the point that we have so much of local data, right? And the data is sitting silos in various aspects of wherever
Correct.
we are touching upon. And right now, if you speak about is the data, again, I don't know how much in pharma context we can talk, but we are anyways in pharma world, we do touch upon the local data, we do touch upon the research that has been done from the local, let's say, orgs, in terms of bridging the gap that we have in the market in terms of meeting the patient's needs. And yes, those local data is still very much integrated component of all the analysis and research that the pharma world is doing. Again, I'm coming from the context of pharma because I relate to that world. Having said that, the local data is very much into the organization's data set as we speak. Now, there are protocols, there is also IP, there is also various other patents that we have to respect, where we cannot absorb the local data as such. And that's where the generics come into the picture, which they then utilize the local data as well as the current patents expiry to further improvise the concept of, let's say, how to make the drug much more easily available to the people at a much more lower cost. Now, coming back to your previous question, how this local data can be more accessed easily. So yes, there are we have IQVIA, we have other enterprises who are making us or helping the organizations to access the local data. There is also research going on how we can fast integrate with the local data through our models, which is again AI. But again, everything is also depending on the organization's confidentiality, how much data can we take. There are other factors with respect to the regulations of the data, sensitivity of the data. So having said that, on the context of how local data can be integrated, that work is still going on. We are not concentrated only on the data that the organization is creating. We are using the data from the other research that is happening outside the organization. That data is definitely getting inside the organization to fast track the, let's say, the drug that a particular organization is creating or building, to further emphasize how the drug can be built, so that we don't spend amount of money in the R&D. We can use the existing data and we can make it to the market much more faster. And that's where various organizations like Novartis, like Merck, like GSK, they're all working with the local data along with the organization data to make a cohesive decision while making a drug. So yes, local data is very much available within the organization, but again, there are regulations that we all have to follow, considering the sensitivity as well as the how confidential the data is, and how.
Ensuring the biasness also is taken care of. Yeah, correct. Thank you. Thanks for that great response, Pamela.
Absolutely.
Rajiv?
Hey, hi, Pamela. I had a very simple question. I think this is an extension of the question which the other participant, I think, Urla asked. Is that how are the GCCs or the big pharma companies, how are they tying up with India-based research organizations like the IITs or the TIFRs? How is the tie-up going on, and how is the data governance being handled in that sense? I mean, is there any uh, joint research or joint venture going on, or these big pharma are still relying on the Stanfords and the Princetons? Are they hooking to the India-based top educational organizations, so that the tie-up is more, and so that that adds to the value chain of the GCCs which are based out of India, right? So that gives, I think, a boost to the India story as well. So if you can explain on that, please.
Well, that's a wonderful question, Rajiv, and thanks for bringing that on. So, pharma GCCs are increasingly acting as the bridge right now between global pharma strategy and India's scientific brain power. Now, we are seeing tight collaboration with CSIR labs, ICMR, IITs, and NPR, as you rightly mentioned, right? Those partnerships are no longer academic side projects. They are bringing strategic pipelines for data, talent, and co-invention. Now, earlier pharmas would simply license discoveries or read published papers. But now GCCs are helping run joint research programs where academic labs generate biological or clinical data sets. GCC's team build the AI ML models to analyze them. Insights feed directly into global drug discovery pipelines. I think I just touched upon that topic a few minutes back. So that's how the innovation across the borders are happening. Again, we all know how Indian research organizations are so strong in terms of computational biology, bioinformatics, structured biology, mathematical modeling. What GCCs are bringing are enterprise scale data engineering, cloud AI platforms, MLOps, and governance. Together, they are creating the AI-powered discovery ecosystems where academia focuses on scientific exploration, GCCs industrialize the models, and pharma headquarters is scaling into drug programs. So it's all research prototypes into enterprise-grade AI assets. We can touch upon more, but that's something I think I would like to conclude there. But there's more to that topic. It's a vast topic to talk about.
Great. Thank you. Yeah.
Anyone else has any other question? Okay. Now, I know that I have asked you too many questions, and in one of the question, I We talked about the talent from implementer to the ideator, right, or the innovators. But I have a very basic question for our budding students or the budding talents who are maybe studying in the, I would say, applied part of biology like biogenomics, right, biotechnology, genetics, genetic engineering, and they have been mostly told that, okay, you may not be having such good jobs in India, you have to go abroad to get those jobs. That has been a common perception for the guardians, parents, etc., etc. Has the situation changed with the right with these GCCs? I mean, are we getting this kind of jobs, research-oriented jobs, and those applied biology-related jobs in India?
Well, that's a great question. I have been part of the ETRs, employee talent programs, where I visit universities, and I see this question also coming out from them. So I completely correlate it. Absolutely. I think what pharma GCCs are now doing, and I can strongly say that because that's something my org also does, and I've seen in the past org as well. So they are sponsoring the PhD and postdoc programs. They're running joint AI in healthcare research labs, offering internships in computational drug discovery. So we are not losing the top research talent at all. We are giving them the right platform, and GCCs are now becoming a career path for research scientists who want to bring impact at scale. So I think we are now no more an IT employer, but rather we are now applied science employer, where we
Correct.
are bringing the right talents through various initiatives, where we are not only emphasizing on execution being an IT or tech center, rather we are becoming innovation hubs where people are contributing the research mindset, their skill set, and we are now making and being part of drug discovery. So I think innovation is also happening within GCCs. We are very much sponsoring very much various let's say programs that can scale the talent, and we are also focusing on bringing the right talent into the organization, so we can also do wonders from the, again, the concept of from being implementers to innovators. That's where we are heading to.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can't thank you enough, Pamela, for this wonderful insight in the Sunday morning. And thanks to all our participants. I know how much it takes to sacrifice that 1 hour right out of your right, busy schedule, right, on especially on Sunday where people tend to relax a little bit. So, but thank you so much. It was so insightful. With this, we'll conclude. Unless anyone has any last question, we'll meet again right sometime. And of course, like we would like to have you in our future sessions as well. Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Pamela.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Rajiv, Shubhra, Meetu, and everyone who joined here, and all the big audience that you took time out in Sunday. I know how Sundays are so bad, but looking forward for such great meetups again. Definitely would be more looking forward to contribute in a much more better way. Thank you, Shubhra, for having me.
Thank you.
Great view, great questions. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye.